Turns out, you were right.
Damn straight I was. But even then, it made no sense at all.
Guess we better talk about it.
Hit it.
So, how did it make no sense?
Well, Joe, who's obviously still alive, screams to Wendy to stay away because it's a trap and he's the bait. But why? How? What kind of trap? Not a very effective one from what happened next as the xenomorph got his ass kicked. But since when do they lay traps for people anyway?
It's a new behavior.
So why did they not lay traps with any of the other humans it ripped apart, most of whom weren't armed and didn't pose a threat? Changing behavior because the writer needs them to isn't very satisfying.
Well, to be fair, we don't know it didn't make any sense. The sense might be revealed in a later episode.
Maybe.
But we did get to have a fight between the xenomorph and Wendy, super soldier.
A fight that happened behind closed doors.
Yeah, that was a weird decision.
Not as weird as Joe, who's been impaled by a xenomorph tail and flung around like a rag doll, being able to get up and do what he could to try and save his sister.
Adrenaline?
Okay, maybe. But yet again, he's face to face with the xenomorph, and it doesn't kill him.
Plot armor is the best defense.
You're telling me? Alright, this episode was pretty much the calm before the storm. All the alien creatures are being taken to Prodigy's island, and everything is gearing up for a massive containment failure that'll happen in the next episode or so. So, we were offered some time for character development.
And there is, like the scientists complaining about how reckless the mission was and how irresponsible it was to send kids there.
Complaints we ourselves had. And there's the girl who got attacked by the eye tentacle monster, what's her name?
Nibs, I think. It's really hard to remember who's who when it comes to these kid robots.
Yeah, I did like the fact she's starting to fall apart and questioning everything that's happened to her, right down to not being happy that she couldn't keep her old name, and that Wendy got to choose Wendy when she was given her new name.
Or how the Peter Pan and the Lost Boys analogy totally falls apart since they're not remaining children and some of the boys are girls.
That was fun. And there's the dark-haired girl feeling she needs to compete and become Boy Cavalier's favorite.
Which is what he wanted, someone he could talk to on his level.
I'm sure they'll be very happy together, until they're torn to shreds further down the line. Okay, about Morrow. He seems to have had a sudden personality transplant, turning from the cold, calculating assassin to someone with feelings, emotions, who used to have a family.
That's quite a turn.
Well, it does make him more interesting, but everything around him doesn't make sense.
Everything is quite a big term.
It's an apt one, Commander. Okay, let's start with his phone call with Yutani. This is where we learn that the 65-year mission he was talking about at the start of the first episode had already happened. So, he's a man lost in time, essentially. Yutani knows this. So, why was she surprised that he was expecting to talk to her grandmother and acted as if she had just realized that as she was talking to him? Surely that's information she would have already known and would have reminded him assertively.
Maybe she's not a very assertive CEO.
But that 65-year time difference is confusing me no end. For one, the tech inside the ship is identical to the Nostromo's. So you're telling me tech hasn't progressed in 65 years? I mean, look, this is what a computer looked like 65 years ago. And this thing contains vastly more computing power than it. Yet here, it looks the same.
Well, you're ignoring the possibility that Nostromo could be as old.
Okay, granted, that's a possibility. But two other things then. One, Morrow had a weapon to cocoon a xenomorph, tech which would be, by the time Aliens took place, 122 years old. Why didn't the Marines have an updated version of that? Would have been so useful.
Yeah, good point.
And two, when Morrow implants a communications device into one of the kid robots, how come that 65-year-old tech is compatible with current communications?
It's a minor thing, though.
Okay, well, how about the script, then? When Morrow encounters the two kid robots, he tells them his ship was sabotaged, he felt awful about all of his dead shipmates, and he had no idea where he is or which city the ship struck.
Well, he could be lying.
Yeah, okay, he could, but when he talks to Yutani, he's asking her all these questions about Prodigy.
Well, because Prodigy is literally the new kid on the block and didn't exist 65 years ago.
So why then, in the first episode, did he ask these two soldiers where Cavalier was? He couldn't possibly have known him, since he wasn't even born when he left on his mission.
Maybe he was looking for a different Cavalier?
What? Like Cavalier's granddad? Why? Since he didn't even know where he was, and Prodigy didn't exist as far as he was concerned. If you think about it, it makes zero sense.
Fair point. And you have to wonder how, since the tech guys are monitoring the kid robots at all times, they didn't notice Morrow put in a communications device in one of them.
Yeah, especially an antiquated one. And then to finish off, something's happening to Wendy, which means she's somehow more attuned to the xenomorph sounds when none of the other kid robots are. And the tech guys haven't noticed that?
I thought it was ridiculous that she fainted right behind Kirsch doing experiments on the facehugger, and no one noticed it right until the end credits rolled, even though they would have had to bump into her going from table to table.
Not to mention the kid robots are supposed to have super hearing, yet the two that were with Kirsch didn't hear her come in or fall? Oh, and why remove a lung from Joe?
To incubate the xenomorph larvae, it seems.
Well, that's another thing. The larvae does look like a tiny little baby xenomorph, which means it just needs the host to grow in to become its bigger self. Kinda like how a baby kangaroo grows in its mother's pouch. But that conflicts with established lore. In Alien 3, the xenomorph incubated inside a dog, and the grown creature took on dog characteristics as a result. There was a blending of the two species' DNA, but not anymore.
To be honest, we don't know enough of what's going on to fully know for sure.
You know, it would have been much better had the story taken place after Aliens. I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of problems with the timeline as a result.
Time will tell.
It will indeed. 3 down, 5 to go. Until then, if you like what we do,
and how we do it,
and you feel you'd like to help us out,
please consider joining our Patreon.
As long as you can afford it, of course.
We'll leave a link to it in the description and pinned comment.
Thanks for watching. Do let us know what you think in the comments, and I'll give you the response you deserve.
Fair point. And you have to wonder how, since the tech guys are monitoring the kid robots at all time, they didn't notice Morrow put in a